1 week left. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I am your host of the HFL Week 13 recap, Jimmy Foosball. We got another playoff spot secured this week, and we have our second bye-apocalypse of the year. It's going to be a long recap video, so let's get into it. Our first matchup of the week is Barty versus JD. Lombardi loses to JD 123.48 points to 115.46 points. His bye week is in jeopardy now. JD has a playoff chance, so let's talk about it. For Lombardi, CJ Stroud drops 16.06 points. Tony Pollard, the touchdown streak continues. He drops 15.8 points. Joe Mixon, his best game of the season, 2 touchdowns, 26.7 points. Nico Collins drops a bomb, 30.6 points, but the Cleveland defense leaves Lombardi with -1 point. Now for JD, Matt Stafford, 22.96 points. Rachaad White, 18.1 points. Jamar Chase with his second best game of the season, with Jake Browning at that, 27.12 points. And DeAndre Hopkins with 16.4 points. Lombardi has an 8-5 record. He has a 99% chance of making the playoffs. However, John P. is challenging him for the bye week spot. JD has a 6-7 record. He has a 27% chance of making the playoffs. Any percent chance is a chance, folks. Our second matchup of the week is the game of the week. Now, there are a lot of options for game of the week this week, but I just felt like this one just had a great story attached to it. This matchup is between Zach and Cleary. Zach continues to fight for a playoff spot, and he defeats Cleary 115.4 to 107.82. Zach is forced to start Kyler Murray because of the bye-apocalypse. Kyler drops 11.8 points. Antonio Gibson is put as a starter because of the Jonathan Taylor injury, and he drops 9.2 points. Ferguson begins our matchup on Thursday with a nice 16.7 points for the tight end. Christian Watson drops 24.1 points. He is injured, I believe. We'll see what happens with him. And the Colts defense gives Zach 18 points. For Cleary, Trevor Lawrence leaves the game with a high ankle sprain. He drops 25.12 points. Ramondre Stevenson also leaves the game with a high ankle sprain. He only drops 2.4 points. A.J. Brown with 16.4 points. Laporta with a stellar 25.5 points. Marquise Brown leaves the game with a heel injury. He drops a donut for Cleary. Definitely not what you want to see. So Zach is currently on a 2-game winning streak. He has a 7-6 record. At one point, he had an 18% chance of making the playoffs. His current percentage is a 43% chance of making the playoffs. We will keep you posted with the Zach story. 8 years in a row of making the playoffs. Does he do it again? For Cleary, this is a 5-game losing streak. He's playing spoiler for the rest of the year with a 3-10 record. He's currently tied for last place now with his record. He plays Lombardi next week, so big implications for Barty in that matchup. See what happens. Our third matchup of Week 13 is between two teams in the middle of the playoff fight. Right in the middle of it, we got Gabe getting the W over Fink by 30 points, 143.1 to 113.16. For Fink, Brock Purdy throws 4 touchdowns, 30.46 points. Pacheco drops 20.8 points. Mike Evans gets his 10 straight 1,000-yard season. He drops 162 yards this week for 26.7 points. Christian Kirk leaves the game with injury. He only drops 3.1 points. And Aubrey, the kicker from Dallas, dropping 15 points. Now for Gabe, Patrick Mahomes drops 13 points. CMC, 20.8 points. DeAndre Swift is injured. He only drops 3 points. Metcalf dropping a monster game, 6 receptions, 134 yards, and 3 touchdowns for 35.4 points. Cortland Sutton with a 14.7 point game, and James Conner, the revenge game against the Steelers, he drops 23.5 points. Fink has a 7-6 record. He is in the playoff mix with a 46% chance of making them. Gabe also with a 7-6 record. He has a 72% chance of making the playoffs. Our next matchup is probably the most talked about matchup before the week started. It is between Frank and Boston. It's a rivalry game. There were 2 videos created for this matchup, one from each player. It's a Frank revenge game. If you remember, Boston did beat him in week 1. But this week, Frank wins 141.72 points to 102.86. For Frank, Jalen Hurts, 23.92 points. Brian Robinson Jr., he leaves with a hamstring injury. He drops 5.3 points. Frank has to start Samaje Perine, 1.6 points. Tyreek Hill, looking for 2,000 yards this season, is looking real strong. Looks like he might be able to do it. 5 receptions, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns for 30.8 points. Devontae Smith with 20.1 points. Pookie Bear Nakua, he's on and off with injuries for the whole game pretty much, but he puts up 22.9 points. And the Falcons defense with 16 points. For Boston, we have Dak. Okay, here we go. I had to do that one for Boston. God damn it, I hate that shit. 3 touchdowns for Dak, 28.26 points. Kamara with 25.9 points. Brandon Cooks, the late waiver wire pickup for Boston, with 14.5 points. He got a little stack with Dak. Jawan Johnson, another waiver pickup this week at the tight end spot, drops a donut. You got Scary Terry, another donut for Boston. The Dolphins had him on lockdown. And the Cowboys D, who've been looking great all season, dropped -2 points against the Seahawks. The last 3 bullet points that I just read, really tough for Boston, who is fighting for a playoff spot currently. Frank right now, the hottest team in the HFL. He's on a 4-game winning streak. He clinches the bye week with this dub. He clinches the top seed. He is the number 1, confirmed. The curse, the playoff curse, the championship curse, is it real? We're going to be following that story. He's got a 10-3 record right now for Frank. And for Boston, he is on a 2-game losing streak. He's got the most PA allowed, 1,600 points. Unlucky year with the points allowed, but he still has a chance with a 6-7 record. He's got a 46% chance of making the playoffs. We'll see if he does it or not. Our 5th matchup of the week features our performer of the week. It is not deja vu. This guy is just really fucking good at fantasy football this year. It is John P versus Joe. John P is looking strong to close the regular season. This week he clinches his playoff berth by defeating Joe 144.12 to 132.5. I mean, just a great game from both players. John P gets the edge. And like I said, he is our performer of the week again. He just keeps doing it. Let's go over John P's matchup. Jared Goff with 16.32. Derrick Henry with 25.5, Travis Etienne 15.9, CeeDee Lamb 27.6, George Pickens 10.6, Cade Otton with a donut, who cares, Javonte Williams 8.5, Kyron Williams 18.7, Miami defense 14, and Brandon McManus with 7 points. Just a note for John P's team is that Derrick Henry did leave the game early with what might be a concussion. I know the coaches are saying that he's fine. For Joe, it's a valiant effort from him. He puts up 132.5 points. Tua with 19.2 points. Achane comes back with 23.8 points. Kelsey with 10.1 points. Debo with a crazy game. 4 receptions, 116 yards, and 3 total TDs for 34.8 points. And Olave with 15.4 points. With this win, JP clinches the playoffs. He's currently fighting for the 2nd bye week spot against Lombardi. We will see what happens with that battle. JP with an 8-5 record. For Joe, he has a 6-7 record. He has an 18% chance of making the playoffs. And for our 6th and final match, it is not deja vu again. It features our Duck of the Week. David versus Mike. Mike is our back-to-back Duck of the Week. We will talk about the choking problem that I talked about last week. David gets his 3rd win of the season, putting up 114.84 points to Austin 316's 94.18 points, less than 100 club. For David, Russell Wilson 15.84 points, Jerome Ford 12.7, Michael Pittman Jr. 11 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown for a 23-point game. Tank Dell drops a donut. This is the one negative takeaway from this matchup for David. Tank Dell drops a donut and he is injured for the remainder of the HFL season. Really hate to see it, the standout rookie that David acquired in a trade. Very unfortunate news there. Another trade acquisition, Evan Ingram. He secures the W for David, who had a 2-point lead going into Monday Night Football with 18.7 points from him. And the Chargers defense with a nice 14-point game. Now for Mike, our duck of the week. Justin Herbert struggles, 7.98 points. Austin Eckler, same matchup, struggles, 3.7 points from the first round pick. Zach Charbonnet leaves the game a little early with injury, but he dropped 16.4 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11.9. Elijah Moore, 10.3. Chig Okonkwo, 7.9. David Monty-Mole, 12. Jalen Warren, 6. Tampa Bay defense, 8. And Jason Sanders, 10 points. David has a 3-10 record. He's playing spoiler the rest of the year. For Mike, he has a 7-6 record. He once had a 90% chance of making the playoffs just a couple weeks ago. Now he has a 48% chance of making the playoffs. We talk about the choking problem. Will he do it? You know who's following the story, goddammit. It is me. I will let you know next week. So for our week 13 wrap up here, we're going to show the standings like we usually do. You can see the records on the screen right now. We got a couple letters now on the board. We got the Z for Frank securing the bye. You got the X for JP securing the playoff berth. And then we have our 2 E's at the bottom. Everybody else in the middle is fighting for their lives right now. And we're going to change it up this week, and we're going to add our percentages just in case you didn't catch it. At the end of the matchups here, you can see all the percentages that we have for people to make the playoffs. Got 2 100%, a 99%, and besides the bottom 2 zeros, we got a whole lot of question marks going into week 14 to see who makes the playoffs and who makes consolation. Take a look at that. Some good stuff right there. We're going into the last week of the HFL regular season. This is where it all goes down. I cannot wait. You know who I am. Jimmy Foosball. HFL Week 13 recap. I will see you guys on Week 14 with a whole lot to say. I cannot wait. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.